What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. Pokemon having different forms can sometimes be even more interesting than evolving. Some forms require specific circumstances to be activated, some are outside of your control, and plenty of them aren't changeable at all. It's just nice to get a different look out of some of them. But there are even more Pokemon out there that always stay the same with the potential for so much more. So let's look at, in my opinion, the top 6 Pokemon that deserve to have a form change. Number 6. Kecleon. This one is pretty simple. Kecleon can change colors and even turn invisible, so it's no surprise that this small lizard could take on different looks. However, instead of a see-through option, I want them to figure out what we're going to do with this purple version. We first saw the thing as a random criminal with a regular Kecleon in the anime, and then we saw one yet again in the Mystery Dungeon series as a humble shopkeeper. And it's not like that was an accident because we've seen it yet again. But as far as the actual mainline games, we've never been able to come across this otherwise common variety of the color swap Pokemon. I'm not saying that it has to be its shiny form or anything. I know that shinies weren't even designed back then, so it would be hard to make it purple, but I'd imagine that more people are familiar with the violet-hued variant over its official shiny. So I don't know what we would do for it, if it just turns this way at critical health, or just cold environments maybe, or even one signifies the types that were physical back in the day and the other stand for all of the types that were special. It could be any number of reasons, but I think letting Kecleon actually don its erroneous iconic color could finally give people a reason to pay attention to it other than its gimmick ability for type changes. Number 5. Zebstrika. This one might be a little out there. Initially I thought of maybe a fire type where we could turn the flames on and off, but that doesn't always work out in practice. But then I thought about Zebstrika, and I have always loved its Gen 5 sprite, and how it stomps with power and makes its stripes glow. So I wish that had stuck around in more obvious ways, like when Zebstrika uses Charge or some other buffing move, that you could see the electricity building across its body with increasing voltage. I don't think this would actually change anything about Zebstrika, like altering its stats, and it would probably change back after releasing its energy. Some people might not see the value in this purely visual change, but if Xerneas can have its completely pointless form change that isn't even visible in battle, then surely this could count. But maybe you think that lighting up isn't enough of a difference. Well, that's fine. What if we just invert it instead? When powering up, Zebstrika could have a majority of its body glow so brightly that the ordinarily white stripes could look dark. This would display a whole new level of power, and would also look more closely to what most people probably think when they hear Zebra. I guess Blitzel could get in on the action too. I think that showing off the power of these lightning equines could help set them apart from the flood of other pure electric types that seem to persist. Number 4. Marshadow. Now there are plenty of legendary and mythical Pokemon with form changes. Some of them are quite substantial, while others are barely noticeable. And even some that give us a hard time knowing whether or not they count as an official form change or not. Like, what do we do with Magearna? It's supposed to have this form change of an old-timey paint job, but it doesn't actually seem to exist in the games outside of Pokemon Home, and this is supposedly different from its shiny form, which also doesn't seem to be available anywhere, so sometimes we have some confusion, but one that I truly don't understand is Marshadow. This unique ghost and fighting type has been shown in its standard shadowy black form, but also has a nice strong shade of green. It's apparently important enough to have a name, called Zenith Marshadow. What I'm still not sure about is how or why this change in color occurs, but by any meaningful metric, it might as well just stay the way it is. So why don't we add some purpose behind this ability? Now you can see Marshadow's fired up state briefly when using its Z move, however since those are currently not around and likely not to come back until our next visit to Alola, it would make the most sense for this transition to be centered around its signature move, Spectral Thief. And since the Zenith mode is being described as being filled with a fighting spirit, I think this could be a good way to power up its fighting type moves, and have the ghost moves receive more power when it reverts to its standard form after using one such empowered attack. It's just off the top of my head, but being able to control and actually utilize this form that already exists with Marshadow would make it that much cooler so that the people that failed to get one can be even more jealous. Number 3. Overly gendered Pokémon. So back in Gen 4, they decided to introduce gender differences into many species of Pokémon. And honestly, it wasn't a major shakeup to most of your past favorites. Sometimes you can't even tell, but a heart tail here and an extra bulb there are just fun little details to arise out of Pokémon that we've known for years, while also allowing you to fight with your friends over what is the correct pattern for a Girafarig because you caught the opposite genders. Obviously, these aren't the kind of forms that you're able to move between as they are set, and this was not the first time that we've seen gender differences in Pokémon, but gender-specific Pokémon have remained a staple even to the most current generation, with certain species only being male or female respectively. So these factors make it all the more strange when they make particular design choices for Pokémon that don't line up with the dimorphism that you would expect from most animals. Some obvious ones include Lopunny being male, while conversely Diggersby can be female. The Machop line having the possibility of being male or female is another head-scratcher for many, especially because it was avoidable. See, Pokémon genders were not displayed in Gen 1, but later they did intentionally isolate certain species as standalones, but they neglected to care about doing it for others. Are these buff lizards somehow less manly than the male-only Hitmons? Another great example is the starters all having a mostly male gender ratio, even though some of them, like Primarina or Delphox, might be candidates for actually having differences between the two genders. Maybe we could drop the skirts and eyelashes on male Brionne, or at the very least make it so that female Emboar don't have a fire beard. I can accept that they didn't know what they were doing for Mr. Mime, but to double down on Mr. Rhyme being a girl? Come on, people. I wouldn't even bring it up, except they're the ones that have declared certain Pokémon as having significant differences between their genders, much in the same way as you would find across the entire animal kingdom, even to the point of cutting off Pokémon that lean too far in either direction. So when there are still dozens of other Pokémon that desperately need this treatment, it stands out as demanding a form variation far before an Aipom with slightly more hair. Number 2. Ho-Oh. I had a tough time with this one until I came across the fiery legendary bird from Gen 2. Back when we first saw this gold version mascot, things were a little too monochromatic to properly display the rainbow sheen supposedly surrounding this Pokémon. I'm not knocking them because they did a great job with what they had, but it was also their job to improve upon the sprites once the technology advanced. And they did, marginally. They added the golden hue in with the red and the green, which does work wonders, but is a far cry from the 7 colors of the rainbow we were promised. So I say that Ho-Oh should get a full rainbow treatment with a form change. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. Firstly, you can generate some kind of aura around Ho-Oh that will give off the prismatic sheen, sort of like how the totem Pokémon glow when they're powered up. The second thing could be to actually fill in with the other colors somewhere on these phoenix feathers. Most commonly, we see this on the wings and tail portions from fans eager to fix the problem. There's any number of reasons why Ho-Oh should gain such a form, chief among them being that we have been lied to for years, so it's too good to pass up us finally getting a Pokémon to be all the colors of the rainbow. Number 1. Arbok. I'm not even sure how it comes up, but on numerous videos people have brought up the different patterns the Pokemon Arbok has had over the years, stating that it should count as a form change. My argument is always that these alternative patterns are not fixed. If you transfer an Arbok from Hoenn to Sinnoh, the markings on the body will conform to whatever region it's in. This differs from, say, Spinda, whose spots remain unique regardless of whichever region you put it in. Maybe this is a form of camouflage, but the real answer is just the way they coded the games. But it doesn't have to be this way. Instead of brushing aside the embarrassment of inconsistent Pokémon design, why not embrace it and keep all of the various patterns as their own unique form differences? We could see alternate forms in the same box right next to each other, and know at a glance where these snakes came from, at least for the first few generations. And even more impressive is that Arbok that are technically from the same region would also look different depending on whether you transfer them from the Virtual Console or other means. They can even keep the back stripes exclusively on the Gen 1 Kanto snakes. It's honestly just an aesthetic alteration, so if they can find room for whatever millions of Spinda variations out there, a couple of Cobras should be no problem. In reality, you might say that it's too much work to include all of these changes, but the laziness of others doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen. Which Pokemon do you think deserve an official form change? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!